What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast and apologies for the lack of content and communication recently, but you can probably tell from my voice that I've been a little bit ill over the past week, and I figured since it's the final week of the season that it was probably best to just take some time off and hopefully recover in time for the start of the new season. That being said, those of you that have been subscribed for a while will know that I like to end each season with a huge compilation video of some of my best battles featuring the craziest teams that I've run this season, and whilst I'm not feeling 100% yet, I have pretty much only got to record the intro for this video, so it's not going to be super taxing on my body. And by the way, if you have been missing my content, I did actually just do a live stream with a very unique GBL challenge concept that actually was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be, so definitely go and check that out if you haven't already. And speaking of my live streams, let me know in the comments if you want to see a compilation of my best live stream battles as well, because a lot of my most creative teams and themes have been during my live streams, and it's quite likely that you won't have seen all of the battles in those streams. So yeah, if you do want to see that compilation of my on-stream battles, let me know in the comment section down below. But with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What has been your favorite video that I've uploaded this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the compilation now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, in Scyther into Superior, and I do want to mention I actually used an Elite TM to get a Steel Wing on my Scyther, just because I feel like it's got slightly better coverage. Obviously it's resisted by stuff like Water types, but I've got two Grass types in the back. But I just think up against a lot of Flying type Pokemon, having Steel Wing for neutral damage, or at least up against like a Gligar or a... Actually, to be fair, a lot of the flying types are also going to resist Steel Wing, so it's not that great, but either way, it's going to do slightly better. But unfortunately, the opponent does make a very nice catch there, catching the resisted Aerial Ace onto Skarmory. Of course, this team is very, very rough up against a Skarmory, but at least they are running Steel Wing these days, so we're not taking super effective damage from the fast move here. We go for the superpower, dealing big damage, and we're also going to throw on CMP, and that's actually perfect for me as superpower number 2. Going to grab the final shield from the opponent. So actually, we've got the Skarmory pretty low and grab the final shield there. I'm hoping we can come in with Levani and just go for a full Razor Leaf farm down. It's going to be incredibly close here, but Levani is just barely not able to do so. So at this point, I'm definitely going to have to shield. Sky Attack will be double super effective. I'm expecting the opponent to come back in with the Superior and blind throw the Aerial Ace. So I swap into my Scyther, I make the catch, and at this point, I'm just going to go straight for the X-Scissor and hope that there is a Mud Boy in the back. So X-Scissor gets the KO. It's not a Mud Boy, but it's a Lantern, which is nearly as good here. But can Levani actually live a Thunderbolt? It's going to be close. Thunderbolt doesn't get the KO there. We come out with a Leaf Blade loaded, and of course Leaf Blade going to hit for super effective damage. It will eventually take out the Lantern, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Empoleon in the lead, but they're running Waterfall, so I have to get out of there as soon as possible. I was very slow to swap out there. We swap into Kartana, they go for a Hydro Cannon, and they're going to swap into a Gligar, and once again, they're still able to outpace me to that first charge move. I have to shield this. I cannot afford to let the Wii attacks take out my Pheromosa once again, so we're going to throw on the CMP tie here, and we go for the Night Slash. The opponent is actually going to shield, and I think that's probably what I needed here, because now I think I've put them into range where one Incinerate will get the KO. We do have to live 2 Wii attacks on our Blacephalon though, so we come in and we just barely get there in time. We can now go for a Mystical Fire as the opponent comes back in with their Empoleon. The opponent's going to use their shield, their final shield. We come in with Pheromosa and we get the Bug Bite farm down. They've got a Charm, Alola Ninetales, but Pheromosa hangs on and makes it to a close combat, which easily one-shots the Alola Ninetales, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Pelipper in the lead, and again they're going to swap into Poliwrath, and this is okay here. It kind of just depends. Maybe like if they've got a more attack weighted Poliwrath, maybe we could take out a Poliwrath with the next Dragon Claw here, but we're going to fire it off straight away. Dragon Claw doesn't quite take them out there, and they do just barely hang on, so very unfortunate there. But either way, going to come in with the Escavalier, going to no-shield this once again, and this time the opponent does go for the skull, dealing huge damage there. If they come back in with Pelipper, unfortunately we're not able to swap out just yet, so I'm going to go for an Acid Spray. I'm hoping to grab a shield here. Acid Spray is unfortunately no-shielded by the Pelipper, but they swap into Registeel, and you'd think, like, we get completely walled by Registeel, but it doesn't matter. We go for the Ancient Power, and Ancient Power gets the boost once again, and suddenly, this is looking doable here. We're going to shield, they go for Focus Fast, they don't even fish for a debuff with the Zap Cannon, so I now overfarm here. I'm 1 away from the next charge move. Ancient Power actually grabs the final shield from the opponent. That's a huge mistake, I believe, because Pelipper was absolutely loaded. But I realized at this point, they actually don't have any shields in place, so I could just farm to the back-to-back Ancient Powers. The first one will be enough to take out the Registeel, and this Ancient Power is going to be huge overkill, but it will be enough damage to take out the Pelipper, and I'm able to take that game. Easily stored a charge move, stored a Brave Bird once I did make it to that on the Blaziken, and then we could have been in a fine position. But here into the next battle, and you're going to see a lot of lag right now. Unfortunately, I was playing on my hotel's Wi-Fi, and it was not the best, I will say. I cut out most of the battles where we did just sort of unfortunately lag out here, but this was a very interesting battle, and you're going to see we shield there, hoping we could make it to a Blaze Kick and at least grab a shield back from the opponent, but unfortunately we're not able to do so. So despite having a great lead, I'm going to have to use both my shields here, and we've already lost switch advantage as well. So this is not ideal in the slightest, but we do get a huge farm down. They're going to come back in with the Jellicent. Of course, they go for one Hex there. I'm going to wait until they make it to a potential Surf, and then try and catch it onto my Greninja, and we do make that catch. Now, of course, Surf, not going to do much damage, and they've actually got a Skeledirge in the back now with a slight energy advantage. This is actually pretty good for Greninja. We can grab both shields from the opponent here, making it to the second Hydro Cannon before they make it to the first charge move, and the opponent is going to use both their shields there. Now, of course, this Shadow Magmortar still has a ton of work to put in, but we've already seen Scorching Sands will be enough damage to get the KO here. I go for 4 Karate Chops, throw the Scorching Sands, taking out the Skeledirge, and have we put them into range where Scorching Sands number 2 will get the KO? It's going to be very close, but Scorching Sands does take out the Jellicent, and despite the awful lag there and the Wi-Fi completely dropping out, Shadow Magmortar with the sweep, able to take that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we can see Bisharp into a Mantine. So again, another flying type that unfortunately we can only hit for resisted damage, but actually the opponent makes my life easier. They swap into Galarian Stunfisk, and we one-shot the Stunfisk with a Focus Blast. And at this point, I'm assuming they're probably going to run Aerial Ace and Ice Beam, but no, it's Water Pulse. We barely hang on, but now we're actually in a pretty awkward position here. We're going to swap into Shadow Gallade. I didn't want to give them slightly extra farm. We go for a Leaf Blade there, and the opponent's going to overfarm, and this is perfect for me. They throw on the CMP tie. We go for Leaf Blade number 2. They no shield, and at this point, I'm just going to trust in my Serral Edge. I can't really afford to shield this, as they will either outpace me to the next charge move or just commit to a full wing attack farm down. But now we can come in with the Serral Edge, and again, I'm hoping this time the opponent does just full send a Water Pulse, so I'm definitely just going to shield this up here. They full send the Water Pulse, and we get the Incinerate farm down, and they've got a Goodra in the back now, unfortunately resisting the Incinerate damage. We're going to full send the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball does get shielded. We make it to a second Shadow Ball. Does this KO? It hits incredibly hard here. Shadow Ball doesn't get the knockout though, but Incinerate gets the KO up against the Goodra, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into the next game, we see a Shadow Gliscor in the lead. So again, a fairly neutral matchup. They might be running Night Slash. It is pretty typical here, but no, they're actually running Aerial Ace. So probably Aerial Ace and Earthquake. Otherwise, they would have just gone for the Night Slash there. We're going for the Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball does big damage there. At this point, I'm not going to swap out. I'm just going to shield this up, I believe, and then go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. But the opponent is once again going to swap into a Skeledirge, so we can go for the Shadow Ball. And this time, I'm actually going to be able to swap into my Palkia a lot sooner, so they will make it to 1 Disarming Voice, and that's absolutely okay. We've seen already we can tank this reasonably well. They're not going to be able to Incinerate farm me down since it is double resisted. So I'm going to overfarm here, throwing at the last possible second once again, going for the Aqua Tail, taking out the Skeledirge, and they come in with another Tapu. This time it's going to be Tapu Fini, and I will be able to make it to back-to-back Aqua Tails. Of course, Aqua Tail going to be resisted. Unfortunately, everything is resisted here, but if they no-shield both of these, once again, we might be in a situation where the opponent is just going to be fully fast move farmed down by my triple dragon team here. So we are, I believe, once again going to come in with the Dialga, just tank the Nature's Madness, assuming they're running. If it's a Moonblast, that's actually going to do a lot of damage, but it is the Nature's Madness. We're now going to swap into Giratina, force them to throw the next charge view straight away, and the opponent's going to go for a Surf this time. It actually doesn't KO. We get the simultaneous KO up against the Gliscor, and again, Dialga can just go for a double resisted Dragon Breath farm down up against a Tapu to take that game. So GG's to opponent there, Internet's going to see Shadow, Alolan Sandslash into Gligar. So another great lead, although we would be better if we were running Powder Snow. And again, the opponent swaps into a Wigglytuff. Powder Snow would be much better here because unfortunately Shadow Claw is double resisted. So maybe it is worth running a Shadow, Alolan Sandslash with Powder Snow. But I'm actually running Sandslash specifically for Pokemon like Bastiodon or Dugong in the front. So we kind of do need that neutral damage that Shadow Claw provides. And either way, this still is a positive matchup for us. I do have to shield a double resisted Icy Wind, but now I'm going to go for Drill Runs. Drill Runs do slightly more damage than an Ice Punch, so since they have dropped my attack, I'm just guaranteeing the KO here as we go for a second Drill Run, taking out the Wigglytuff. They come back in with the Gligar, of course, taking out my Sandslash, so they are fairly safe, but they are not safe when Shadow Salamence has all shields down, so gonna shield up the Aerial Ace. The opponent's going to swap into Lantern, and I'm just going to swap here and catch the Surf. I don't think there's really any reason for the opponent to throw a Surf there, but I'm able to catch it, and it is resisted by the Dragon typing. And now at this point, I'm going to throw a Breaking Swipe on the CMP tie, but I'm actually going to just slightly undercharge this, allowing me to barely leave them on like a few HP remaining. So Surf actually doesn't take us out either. They get the Spark farm down, but now we can come in, get the Dragon Tail farm down, and now we can just full send a Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor one-shots the Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there, Internet's going to see Granbull in the lead. So I mentioned the other day I haven't been seeing too many Toxic Teens, but I think that's not strictly true. I think I just haven't been seeing the Bastiodon, Wigglytuff and Shadow Victreebel team an awful lot, but I've seen quite a lot of Charmers, a lot of Bastiodon as well. Not too many Razor Leaf users, which I think Razor Leaf probably is the easiest of that three to sort of counter, so understandable. There are a lot of flying types in the current meta, but either way we come in with the Simisear, we get the farm down, and they've got a Swampert, so I'm going to swap into my Simipour. The opponent's got a Shadow Salamence in the back, which is very spicy, but also quite easy to take down here as we fire off the Crunch, nearly one-shotting them, then getting the Water Gun farm down. The opponent's going to come back in with the Swampert. I think they're at back-to-back moves, but I'm going to shield this, essentially just to force the opponent to throw their next move straight away, and they do exactly that. Now, Simisear actually has quite a lot of energy already loaded, so I'm going to farm two back-to-back Crunches, just barely outpacing them here. We can fire off the first Crunch. Crunch will grab the shield, and then Simisear is able to win CMP up against the Swampert, and from this range, Crunch gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. And unfortunately, we do lose that game. So GG's to opponent there, Internet's game, we see a Skeledirge in the lead. We're going to go for two Fairy Winds there and then swap into Salazzle because I realise I'll still get an extra Incinerate in as they throw, as they'd end up throwing on alignment there, and that's fine with me. We're now going to go for a Poison Fang, and I can't really tell if the opponent just didn't get the fast move through there or what happened there, but I'm definitely not going to complain about it. We can go for another Poison Fang. Poison Fang is going to drop their defense. We make it to another Poison Fang, and that's what I love about Salazzle, just so incredibly spammy here. And even though they've got a Water type, we've got them deep into the red health range before they throw a charge move. Now, we are of course going to come in with the Whimsicott, and we're just going to commit to a full Fairy Wind farm down. We can tank whatever they throw, no problem whatsoever. They go for a Surf, not going to do much damage. We are now going to see the Skeledirge coming back in, so we're going straight for the Moonblast, well, throwing off the two Fairy Winds, as that is good timing. That does big damage there. We're now going to swap into our Armarouge, and at this point, I wasn't certain if I made the catch there, so I shield, I play it safe, and they actually full sent the Shadow Ball. So very good news for me. We can now go for a Psyshock, and this should be game over. Psyshock, gonna grab the final shield from the opponent. They can full send a Shadow Ball, but it doesn't really matter. Whimsicott has residual energy. All I've got to do here is make it to back-to-back Seed Bombs, and from this range, Seed Bomb will be enough damage to take out Annihilate, and of course, we can throw the second one straight away into the Skeledirge coming back in, and Seed Bomb, despite being resisted, takes out the Skeledirge from as few HP, and I'm able to take that game. In my attack, that was going to be a very easy sweep for the Aurorus, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So GG's to opponent there, into next game we see an Obstagoon in the lead, so a huge core breaker for the team. I'm going to no-shield the first move just in case they go for a Night Slash and get the boost, but they actually go for an Obstruct there, so of course Obstruct really not doing much damage, and yes they have dropped my defense, but we are taking double resisted counter damage, so they're not going to be able to fast move farm me down, but they then get the Night Slash boost as well, so that is not ideal. We're going to go for a Scorching Sands. They're going to double shield their Obstagoon. At least we do drop their attack by one stage, but not ideal for us. They're going to go for another the Night Slash here. They are outpacing me to these charge moves, and because they have boosted up their defense, unfortunately Scorching Sands isn't going to be enough damage to get the KO, but we swap into Arctibax. We preserve some health on the Sandy Gust, and this is just going to be a Night Slash. We can tank it fairly well, but they come in with defense from Deoxys now. As soon as they came in with Deoxys, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is probably going to be a triple counter team. Aurorus has literally no play up against this team, but the opponent is going to throw their energy here. So Psycho Boost will get the KO. I'm thinking because they've dropped their attack by 2 stages plus the Icy Wind, that's a 3rd stage debuff, we might live the Psycho Boost here, and I kind of just have to live this. So the opponent goes for the Psycho Boost, and we do hang on. We can make it to a Scorching Sands. No reason to go for a Shadow Ball there. Scorching Sands gets the KO. We're going to swap into Aurorus immediately, and there is a 3rd fighting type Pokemon, except this Pokemon is running Poison Jab as the fast move, and this is also just going to be a Mud Bomb, so that does not get the KO. Expect the catch there. So we hold on to the energy, we barely live the counter damage, and we make it to back-to-back Weather Balls. The first one, obviously, no shields in play. The second Weather Ball should be enough damage to eventually, after this lag here, I think the opponent has just quit the app here, take out the Toxicroak, and I'm able to take that game. So despite all of the odds being up against the Aurorus there, we're still able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see a Lombre into Registeel. So of course, gonna say swap into my Calissopod, but again, Liquidation would be very useful here, and unfortunately, I'm not running it. So eventually, I do swap it out, but I have very little charge TM, so it's always very risky playing the charge move roulette game with the TM system. I could end up with like Razor Shell or something, so that would not be ideal. I'm gonna shield the first move here. I'm probably not gonna grab a shield back from the Registeel, which is very unfortunate, but at this point, I have to just let it go down. I can't double shield here because even then they could probably still win the 0 to 2 shield scenario up against Calissopod when I'm not running Liquidation. We're now going to come in with our Heatran, and hopefully we can go for a full Fire Spin farm down, and we get the farm down, which is huge. They're going to come in with a Shadow Poliwrath, so I'm going straight for the Earth Power. They actually let that go through. We get the defense drop, and that one Razor Leaf did huge damage in that matchup. And at this point, this is now going to be game over. I can just safely shield up my Lombre. You're going to go for a Bubble Beam here because, of course, they bait me with a Surf, but it doesn't really matter because now, if they do land the Shadow Ball, it's not going to do nearly as much damage. We can go for the full Razor Leaf farm down, and that Poliwrath is at like maybe 2 or 3 Razor Leaf range, so we can just farm them down here, go for 3 more Razor Leaves, get the farm down up against the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, Greninja into Shadow for Alligator. This is definitely where we want to see it. We will resist everything they can possibly throw, but even a resisted Hydro Cannon is going to do like 60% of our health. This is a very squishy team, and this is still the bulkiest Pokemon on the team. This is one of the earlier battles, so we're going to let the move go through here. Then I swap at the same time as the opponent. Luckily for me, I come in with my Ninjask, and the opponent comes in with Medicham, and I didn't realize until this Ice Punch lands that we are insanely glassy. Look at that damage. They're going to be able to double resisted, counter farm me down here if they double shield. We go for the Shadow Ball there. The opponent uses their shield. I don't think Aerial Ace would get the KO, which is why I'm going for Shadow Ball, but we go for Shadow Ball number 2, grabbing both shields, but they get a huge counter farm down. Now, it's very likely that they're running Psychic and Ice Punch here, so could have come in with Greninja and sponged the energy, but instead, we come in with the Excelgor, gonna shield here as they go for the Psychic. At this point, I'm just gonna throw my Charge Move straight away. We throw on the CMP type, which is perfect. Bug Buzz coming through, we'll get the KO up against the Medicham. They come back in with the Feraligatr, and we're gonna snipe with our Greninja, going for the Night Slash before they make it to a Charge Move. But they've got a Shadow Charizard in the back, and they get the Wing Attack farm down. We've only got either a double resisted Charge Move or Acid Spray to throw, so gonna shield up the Dragon Claw, go for 2 more Water Shurikens, throw on the CMP tie, and this is a double resisted Charge Move here, but Bug Buzz still gets the KO up against the Shadow Charizard, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Ferrothorn in the lead. So once again, awful lead matchup for me, but we're going to say swap into Lily, and it's exactly what we want. We bait out the Poliwrath, and technically all 3 Pokemon are decently strong into Poliwrath, but because we are weak to counter, both Lileep and Magnemite aren't going to do amazingly well. But you're going to see Lileep is bulky enough to tank that Charge Move and make it to a second Grass Knot. Now, of course, they just debuffed my attack, so they do live that, but we do get them fairly low, and we've got a shield advantage, which is definitely what we need up against a Ferrothorn, because my entire team can't really do anything up against Ferrothorn. I think every single move is resisted up against Ferrothorn, but they've got a Lantern in the back, and now things are looking much better for us. I can just safely shield up the Surf here, Gonna overfarm a little bit, go for the discharge, and discharge should put them into 1 volt switch farm down range, which is the perfect farm down there, as if they weren't quite in that farm down range, they would have made it to another surf, and now we're just gonna spam magnet bombs over and over again. Magnet bomb is resisted damage, but it does like huge damage to the Ferrothorn, but likewise Power Whip would get the KO here, so I'm gonna swap Catch the Move onto my Slowpoke, realizing they're at back-to-back charge moves there, and I'm basically gonna force them to either throw a charge move, or I'm gonna make it to the Water Pulse, and Water Pulse hopefully grabs the final shield from the opponent. It does grab that final shield, and we've already got another Magnet Bomb loaded, so I'm going to throw it straight away into the Ferrothorn, and Magnet Bomb gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, heading into the first battle here, we Soul Galeo into a Giratina. Now, this is not a good matchup for me. I did mention that I did just play out most lead matchups, even when we were going to lose, but here I tried to catch like a Shadow Force or something. I don't know, but either way, it doesn't work out. They go for an Ancient Power, definitely not ideal, but they swap into Poliwrath, and do they know about the Solar Beam coverage? We're full sending it here, and it one-shots the Poliwrath. They had no clue, and now we're able to flip switch advantage. They come back in with Giratina, and they are panicking. They could have just gone for a full Shadow Claw farm down, but instead they want to get rid of the Pyro as soon as possible, throwing a charge move. We can now come back in with Soul Galeo, and we realise they're running Dragon Claw and Ancient Power, so we don't have to worry about the charge moves anymore, and they even end up shielding a Psychic Fang. So this opponent is in shambles right now. We go for the Iron Head, landing it, dealing big damage. We're going to swap into Necrozma, and they've got a Muck in the back, so no point baiting here. Gonna full send the Sunsteel Strike. Sunsteel Strike connects, and it nearly one-shots them. The opponent just stops attacking there, realizing they're about to get farmed down, and so they just concede the match. So GG's to opponent there, into next game, we see Greninja into Annihilate. So obviously not a great lead matchup for us. Gonna say swap into my Swallow, and I will be able to make it to an Ice Beam before they make it to a Shadow Ball, so I can just no shield this. They just settle for a Night Slash, fine with me. We are going to overfarm, we then throw on CMP, that's fine. I can still tank another Night Slash, perfectly fine here. So I'm gonna let that go through, gonna go for the Ice Beam here. Ice Beam is going to grab a shield once again, so a lot of opponents just don't know the moveset on the Swallow, and I don't really blame them. I don't think I can remember the last time I faced a Swalot, so yeah, it makes sense that they might just be shielding out of caution, but we're going to go for another Ice Beam here, and Ice Beam is going to take out the Noctowl at this point. We're now going to swap because I don't want to give them any extra farm, and I wouldn't have made it to another charge boost, so they'd have got quite a lot of counter damage in and gained a lot of energy from that, but unfortunately they get the boost with the Night Slash, so going for the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. At this point, I kind of just have to shield it, so I'm going to shield the Night Slash as they are boosted. The opponent makes a catch, but they catch the Mud Bomb onto a Bastiodon, and this is perfect for me. You can see, considering that's double super effective, it really does not do that much damage, but I'm going to make it to a second Mud Bomb, and this will put them into range where we can Water Shuriken, farm them down, but not only that, we will come out with a charge move loaded, and of course Greninja, pretty attack weighted, should be winning CMP up against the Annihilate, so presumably they banked a move, but it does not matter as a Hydro Cannon will be coming through, and Hydro Cannon gets the KO up against the Annihilate, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle lead, Mr. Rime into Registeel. So obviously a very bad matchup for us. Gonna say swap into Meowscarado because I can at least hit for neutral damage with the Night Slash there, whereas Mr. Rime only has resisted moves. They're gonna come in with a Shadow Gligar, and the great thing about a lot of the flying types in this meta is that they actually only take neutral damage from grass types because they're either like part ground or part water. So we're going to go for a Night Slash hit, and we end up throwing on the CMP type, and the opponent does get baited into throwing straight away. So that's fine with me. I'm going to let the Meowscarado go down. There's no point coming in with Mr. Rime because it's useless up against the Registeel. Instead, we get a slight energy advantage with Upper Cephalon, and they've got a Jellicent in the back. So that's actually very nice for me. I swap straight away, basically baiting out the Registeel. I'm hoping this is just going to KO me straight away, but Focus Blast, unfortunately, doesn't quite take us out there, which is a little bit worse because now they can just go for a huge lock-on farm down. I'm going to drop their attack with the Icy Wind. Doesn't really make a difference because lock-ons are still going to do 1 damage. Despite being debuffed and double resisted, it's just how it works. We are going to shield as the opponent goes for a Focus Blast there, but it doesn't matter. We get the full Incinerate farm down. We come out with 100 energy, so we can go for a Mystical Fire, grab the final shield with the bait, and we're able to go for a Shadow Ball, throwing on the CMP tie, and Shadow Ball easily one-shots the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Donphan into Poliwrath. Now, Poliwrath is also a bit of an issue for this team. Technically, Donphan does win in the one-shield scenario, I believe. But we're going to go for a body slam here, throwing on the CMP tie, because it's pretty likely that they're just going to go for an icy wind straight away. And now we're going to shield. So the opponent goes for an icy wind. I'm going to stay in with my Donphan here, and then I'm eventually going to swap and catch the move onto my Klefki. I could have gone for the Trailblaze there. Trailblaze, even with a debuff, probably would have just barely taken them out there, but we're going to bait out a Shadow Gligar instead. So it looks like I'm only making it to a foul play. If the opponent throws straight away, then of course Dig will take me out there, because this is a Shadow Gligar, but also I have been chipped with an icy wind. The opponent's going to go for the Dig, taking out the Klefki. At this point, this is a pretty awkward situation to be in. We do have energy on our Donphan. I'm going to throw on the CMP tie. I'm hoping Body Slam will get the KO here, but Body Slam barely doesn't take them out there, which is very unfortunate, but we have put them into range where at least we can Poison Jab farm them down. So we come in with the Rev Room. The opponent comes in with their Poliwrath once again. We're just going for the Acid Spray straight away. I want to get rid of the Poliwrath here. Acid Spray is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. At this point, this is also just going to be an Icy Wind, so I'm going to no-shield this, and let's see what the opponent has in the back. They've got a Ferrothorn, so I believe this is a team that Homesize Henry used to hit Legend, or at least he showcased this team, I can't remember exactly. But over here, even with a debuff to our attack, one-shots the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to Poison Jab, farm down the Gligar to take that game. I was heading into the first battle, Elite Lileep into Mantine. So as I mentioned in the intro, pretty much our only target with these fossil Pokemon is going to be a flying type. So we're going to no-shield this, it's just going to be an Aerial Ace, it's not going to do that much damage, and we're going to go for one extra Bullet Seed, but the opponent makes a brilliant catch there, catching the resisted Ancient Power onto a Registeel, and that does literally no damage whatsoever. But we're going to swap into Tirtouga, and we're just about able to make it to a Surf before they fire off a Charge Move, and they also let that go through. So definitely good with me, because if they take out my Tirtouga, I basically don't have anything that can get rid of this Registeel. But either way, we are once again just barely outpacing them to the Surf, and the opponent gonna no-shield, let the Registeel go down. I definitely don't mind that whatsoever. The opponent's now gonna come in with a Quagsire, which is another issue for fossil Pokemon, which I didn't even mention in the intro. Ground type Pokemon, also very good up against rock types. But either way, we just barely hang on there. Tirtouga putting in work and also landing the Surf, which is very nice. We're now going to come in with a Leap. They're probably going to swap straight away into Mantine, so we can come in with the Omanyte. I'm just going to no-shield this. If it is a Water Pulse, that's going to hit for neutral damage. It does big damage, actually. Omanyte, not exactly the bulkiest Pokemon ever, but we're now going to fire off a Rock Blast, and Rock Blast will be grabbing the first shield from the opponent. We're able to make it to a second Rock Blast, throwing on the CMP tie, and Rock Blast is going to be no-shielded this time around, of course. They need to save a shield, because, of course, my Lileep is going to core break their team. Unfortunately, Aerial Ace doesn't quite take us out there, so they get a few extra wing attacks in. We can still tank this, so I will no shield as the opponent goes for the Aerial Ace once again. We're now going to massively overfarm. I actually farmed to over 100 energy, which is maybe a little bit questionable there, but I always want a Charge Move loaded just in case the opponent swaps back into Quagsire. And at this point, I'm predicting they're going to swap instantly, so we go for that Grass Knot, blind throwing it, and it is the Quagsire coming back in. We get the one shot, and can we make it to the Ancient Power? We're just barely able to do so. One turn before they made it to a Charge Move, and also on 1 HP and a Dream, we take out the Mantine, and I'm able to take that game. I was heading into the first battle, Berserker into Shadow Hypno, so this is a great lead matchup for us. The opponent's going to say Swap into Greedent. Now, we don't have a strong answer, so I'm actually just going to stay in initially, go straight for the close combat, grab a shield from the opponent, and then swap into my Emolga. Now, I'm not going to shield the first move. The opponent actually goes for a Trailblaze, which is resisted, but it is going to boost up their attack. So now, this Body Slam, which I assume they're going to throw, is going to do a lot more damage. It does actually a ton of damage there, but that's fine. We can still tank it, go for an Acrobatics. They still can't go for a Mudshot farm down, so Acrobatics also doing big damage, and the opponent over farms, which is perfect for me. We go for the Discharge. Discharge grabs the final shield from the opponent, and at this point, you guys already know what's going down. I'm gonna no shield, come in with my Shadow Zapdos, and shout out to King IV, because this is like one of his catchphrases that he'll say, but when shields are down, Shadow Zapdos absolutely goes to town here, and you're gonna see as the opponent comes back in with the Shadow Hypno, we are firing off the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon gets the one shot up against the bulky Shadow Hypno. They come in with double, and we make a pretty unnecessary catch here, but we catch a resisted Body Slam onto our Berserker, and at this point the opponent is going to have to throw a Charge Move to get rid of us, but they're not throwing. Instead, they're going to go for a full farm down. Close combat does huge damage. We get the resisted Shadow Claw farm down, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, and this is the very first battle I did with this team, and you can see already we've got Play Rough for coverage, and this is a brand new Pokemon, so the opponent might not know what moves we're running, so we're full sending it here, and we one-shot the Guzzlord as it's double super effective. Perfect start to the video, and now the opponent's going to come in with a Clodsire. We're going to go for a Swift here. We throw on the CMP tie with a Stone Edge, and the opponent does throw straight away, so not going to be an Earthquake here. Stone Edge is not enough damage to get the KO here, and of course Mud Shots not really doing much damage, so I'm actually able to make it to back-to-back Swifts here. I'm going to throw the first one, and if we live the Mud Shot, then of course we will make it to another Swift. I don't expect the opponent to shield here. They're probably just going to sacrifice the Clodsire. I mean, they've got a lot of energy, so we're going to come in with the Execute, unlikely to be running Stone Edge and Sludge Bomb, so I know shield. The opponent goes for a blind Earthquake, which is absolutely fine with me, but they've got Jellicent in the back. Now, Execute is actually pretty bulky, but unfortunately, we are low enough where a Shadow Ball will definitely take us out. They're going to bait. I'm trying to throw on good timing here, and because we're up against a 3-turn move, that's very difficult to do, and as a result, basically, I kind of just have to throw at this point here, as we're at back-to-back Seed Bombs. We go for the first one, grab the first shield here, I'm going to go for the second one, but I think this Hex will be taking us out, which is unfortunate, and now we're going to come in with Phalanx, which only has resisted charge moves to throw. Now, you can see in the graphic, we've got Brick Break. I didn't actually change that until maybe, like, in the second set, so there the opponent tries to make a catch, and at this point, I'm just going to shield this, and because we are running Superpower, I'm going to farm 2 back-to-back Superpowers. I know, of course, Mega Horn is just single resisted, but I think maybe 2 Superpowers would do more damage. So we go for the first one, and you can see even with the debuff to our attack here, this second Superpower should just about be enough to take out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Lucario into Ferrothorn. So a very good lead matchup for us. The opponent's going to say swap into Charge Bug, and I noticed I only faced a couple of Charge Bug today, but a lot of them were running Crunch. Probably not specifically for the Giratina matchup, but of course it is neutral damage up against, say, a Gligar, which typically would be a very hard response to a Charger Bug, so it is understandable. But anyways, I'm going to shield this, and because that first Crunch landed, they can now just go for X-Scissor, but also they can probably just Volt Switch farm me down in the 2-shield scenario. So we go for the Ominous Wind, we don't get a boost, and they can farm me down, but we know they are running X-Scissor and Crunch, so both moves are going to be resisted by my Lucario. We tank that, not particularly well, but we do tank it, and they come in with a Lantern, so not ideal. Both Pokemon that are remaining, Bruxish is going to heavily lose to, but we go for the close combat, dealing huge damage. I tried to snipe with a Confusion there, we actually don't register at all. I can't really afford to shield that up there, but the opponent saves me as they swap back into Ferrothorn. We take very little damage there, so now I can farm to a close combat, taking out the Ferrothorn, and we also have a Thunder Punch loaded, and from this range, Thunder Punch will be taking out the Lantern, and I'm able to take that game. So I'm just going to concede the match there. But GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Mantine in the lead, and they're actually going to say swap into Quagsire. And this is huge because I do not have an answer whatsoever, but I am ahead on energy. So just going to fire off these Weather Balls here, firing off the second one on the CMP tie, and we now realize as well, we win CMP in this matchup. So here, we're going to shield this up. Unfortunately, it's going to be 4 to the next Mud Bomb, so I will get outpaced to this next charge move, but I'm realizing here, if I just shield this, I can probably go for a full Powder Snow farm down. So I think that's definitely the play here. We get the full farm down just before they make it to the charge move, but they've got a Ferrothorn in the back, and of course having 2 Pokemon double weak to the grass typing with 0 shields in play, and the opponent still having 2 shields, this isn't looking too good for us. But let's see if there's anything we can possibly do. We're gonna swap and just fully sacrifice the Omastar. I feel like Omastar pretty useless here. Power Whip gets the 1-shot. They've still got a 2-shield advantage though, so what am I gonna do here? We come back in with the Amora. We're gonna overfarm here, throwing after 4 Powder Snows, firing off the Weather Ball, and we should be able to make it to another Weather Ball in time. And if the opponent throws straight away here, this might be good for me because the opponent is going to throw straight away, and I'm hoping I've put them into range where we can actually just resisted Rock Throw, farm them down. So Power Whip gets the KO. Can we get the farm down? Yes, we're able to do so, but it just depends. Can we actually live a Water Pulse from the Mantine? We throw the Ancient Power gets the boost, and that will just guarantee the win here as the opponent goes for the Water Pulse. We now tank that comfortably. We get the Rock Throw farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.